Good afternoon and welcome to the Jason Rantz Show. We are live on AM 770 KTTH, streaming live on all those smart speakers like Amazon Echo. The Boeing strike shows no signs of ending, and I think it's going to be way more costly to the economy than anyone actually realizes, and that's what's trending.
What's trending? Big picture.
And I say that because of the National Association of Manufacturers. They just put out their estimate today on what they think, when you actually calculate everything you need to calculate, how much so far this machinist strike has cost this region. They put it at over $1 billion. So think about that. $1 billion not circulating within the economy as a direct result of the machinists' strike. Now, some folks, I think, can think about it in terms of the dollars coming back and eventually will be spent, because you're still going to have Boeing fulfill plane orders once the machinists and Boeing come to an agreement on their next contract that, sure, some of the money wasn't spent today, but it will be spent a month from now. It was just a little bit delayed. And yeah, to a point, I think that that's fair, but you're kind of forgetting something.
One, there's the loss of consumer spending. If you're out of work, you're going to cut back. You have the loss of wages, obviously, during the strike. You have what I would characterize as the industrial spending loss.
Now, that's Scott Hamilton, is an aviation analyst speaking with our sister station, Car News Radio. And it's important to point to the first two arguments he just made there about what's suffering. Sure, the dollars that would be spent otherwise on the Boeing planes, jets, they'll be spent, just delayed. However, the worker who would have been in the office today or at the factory today didn't then go to the local coffee shop or the corner market or the gas station or the Subway shop, the cafe. They didn't go there today, and otherwise they would have, and they would have spent X amount of dollars. That money's not coming back. That money's not going to come back. It's not like they're going to say the next time they end up going to the coffee shop that they've been going to every single day while in the office, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy 20 times the meals I normally would buy just to make up for what we just lost. They don't do that. And so the suffering that those local businesses are going to go through and are going through, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse, and they don't make it up. There are businesses around in Everett, in Renton, that exist purely because of the Boeing workers, the same way like in South Lake Union neighborhood of Seattle. You've got businesses that solely exist because of the Amazon employees. And when they weren't going into the office, those businesses suffered significantly. A ton shut down. A ton didn't make it. Some barely made it, only to then be saved because Amazon said, y'all need to come back into the office 2-3 days a week. And now ultimately in the new year, every single day. Because I live in that neighborhood. I've seen the businesses that closed. And as importantly, I saw the businesses that opened once the employees started to show back up again. The exact same is true around Boeing workforces. Again, wherever it is they are. We're not just talking about here in Washington. We're primarily talking about it, though. That's the reality. And obviously, that's just the regional impact that this has. The machinists going on strike also impacts the country. And of course, the longer it goes, the more pain that is felt.
There's a whole aerospace supply chain in not just the Puget Sound region, but also over in Spokane, for example, that Boeing buys products from to go into the airplanes. All of that is suspended right now.
How long can those companies stay afloat without Boeing, in cases where Boeing's the largest customer for them, has paused their spending? And once they come back, after they assess how much money they lost, and apparently the company has lost over $500 million so far as a result of this, do they change some of their spending habits? Do they cut back once people come back into the office because now, number one, they've lost so much money. Number two, they're losing even more money based upon a contract that they finally got the machinist to agree to that perhaps they didn't want to spend the money on, right? I mean, all of this matters. And keep in mind, the latest offer that had come through was a 30% raise, increased contributions to the union, of course, and a 401k plan or plans, plus a guarantee that they would be building the next jet in this area, which guarantees some level of job security. And the machinist said, no thanks. We want 40%. We want pensions back. And let me test our fill-in producer, Ian, today, who, 14, 15?
12.
12. Do you understand what a pension is?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's basically a fund that you pay into out of your paycheck throughout your career. And then once you retire, it gets doled back out to you over the course of your retirement.
Do you have any expectation that you will ever work in a job that has a pension?
No.
Okay. Why? Because it's a remnant of the past.
They no longer exist.
They no longer exist. This is something that your grandparents dealt with and had, perhaps. Mine too. I'm a few years older than you. Shut up.
Give or take.
Shut it. And I never had any expectation of a pension. I could barely explain what a pension is in any detail. I could basically say what you just said, but don't ask me any particulars because I'm never going to have to deal with that. That they want to go back to a time in which there were pensions. Sorry, that's not how it works anymore. Now, 401ks is as close as you can get, I suppose, or a Roth IRA or the other IRA that's not the Roth, whichever one that one is. But they don't give. There was one that it has different rules.
I have the Roth. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's as close as you're going to get. And that they're giving you a 401k plan seems to be like a good compromise. Unless you just absolutely want everything and you're not willing to negotiate. And it kind of seems like they're not willing to negotiate right now. I think the last time they actually sat down at the same table with Boeing was September, 27th, 26th? It's October 3rd today. What's going on here? And meanwhile, you got to make sure that when you're engaged in these kinds of actions, some might call it a negotiation. I have some mixed feelings about the power dynamic that unions hold, and it's very clearly not equal to both sides. But y'all can't damage the company to the point where, great, you get everything you want, but now the company financially is not doing so well, and they're going to have to make some significant cuts. Cool, you got a 40% raise, except you're now going to be laid off because they can't afford it. And we've seen that exact dynamic happen with small businesses trying to navigate the minimum wage hikes, just looking at Seattle. I mean, now we're at $19 and something cents. We're close to $20. Next year we'll be at 20 and change, maybe 21. Well, they wanted 10 years ago, $15. Now, at this point, businesses would love to go to $15 because they're struggling. It's very expensive to do business in Seattle, and like everybody else, they were impacted by the inflationary crisis. But early on, they said, cool, you just got yourself a $15 an hour job from whatever it was before. Great. I can't hire you anymore because I don't have the money as a small business. Sorry, you're terminated. And you, sorry, you're going to have to take over that person's job. We're consolidating the two. That's what happened. And as much as the folks on the radical left want to pretend otherwise, I did the research. It's a chapter in my book. I spent a lot on the Seattle minimum wage hike because it did start a national movement. The numbers were pretty clear. Some people, yeah, they made more money. That's true. But overall, the data showed that people were losing jobs and seeing their hours cut. And in particular, younger workers were hit the hardest because they had the fewest number of skills. And if you're going to force me to pay way more than someone's worth, I'm not going to hire the person who has no skills. Now, if they're coming in at a low-wage job, yeah, okay, I see something in this person. We're willing to train this person. They have, they told us in the interview enough that made us feel confident that this person could potentially become something more, like Ian. And so, yeah, you take the risk there. But if all of a sudden you're telling me I've got to pay my fill-in producer $50 an hour, I'm like, okay, sorry. I see something in you, not that much. Not that quickly.
Hey,
$50?
$50. I'd love it.
That's almost a quarter of what I make an hour. You're not going to get that close. Come on, man.